Hello, this is Patrick with New Jersey's Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel. Welcome back to the 1961 Airstream Bambi renovation. Today, due to inclement weather, we'll be working inside in my workshop in my basement. And today's project, I will be rebuilding the drawer boxes. There's 4 that go underneath the lounges in the Airstream trailer, and there are 3 total that go in the kitchen galley. In yesterday's video you saw that I already had the wood prepped on the back of my pickup truck. It was an 8x4 sheet of oak plywood, 3/4 inch, and I ripped them into strips here, all different heights based on the height of the drawer box and the different height of the back of the drawer box. And the way the construction is done, it has a series of rabbets and a dado in the bottom, and then the back is just stapled in place. Now there are better and more improved designs of building drawer boxes, but I really would like to duplicate what Airstream did back in 1961 with my drawer boxes. They used plywood, but they used 1/2 inch. The new plywood I purchased is 3/4 inch. So I had to make some new measurements because I want the drawer boxes the same size and width so they fit in the furniture I made for the Airstream. I did want to change the depth of the drawer because when the drawer slides in, it goes right up to the wheel well, and I want to run some 3-inch furnace duct behind here. So I had to deduct the space for the furnace duct, and then I added a little bit more for a little bit more of a gap. Also too, the drawer fronts are going to be remade, and these are a little bit wider than the drawer itself. The drawer boxes here are 22 inches, and you can see here the front face is not exactly the same width as the box because of the rabbet there. So I deducted the depth length of the sides, but I also had to recalculate the front width because I have 1/2 inch plywood on either side. Now I have 3/4 inch plywood. So I had to deduct the 1/2 inch from this width, and I already rough cut them longer than needed, so I'll make the exact cut later. I would love to salvage these boxes, but as you can see, they're stained. There's lots of chips in the construction. The kitchen drawers probably are the best out of them, but you can see some water stains there. And they're really not going to clean up. You can see the back is split. There's some writing from back when Airstream made these. You got some wood split here. So since I already cut the height of each piece, the front and the sides are the same height. The rear is over a 1/2 inch less in height because there's a 1/2 inch recess here for the track, and you have some luan there about 1/8 of an inch, so I had to calculate the height of this since I'm building them in the same manner. This is the bottom luan. I slid out of this one just to deconstruct. You can see Airstream glued and stapled the front faces on, so they're awfully hard to get off if you're going to try to salvage the box and maybe refinish these faces. But what I have set up in this workstation over here, and just keep in mind I'm trying to keep the dust to a minimum. I don't have a dust collection system in my shop here, so instead of getting all sawdust all over the shelves in the back, I'm trying to contain most of it to this area using some Airstream aluminum panels and some cedar boards. So I have the router set up with a bit here, and these are my roundover bits that I have. So I used a 1/4 roundover, and I set the height for the bit here. The ball bearing rolls up against the side of the wood. These pieces have to be perfectly parallel to it. And the router is mounted right underneath, and you can adjust the height up and down. And I'm knocking over all the boards that I already had prepped as part of what I'm running through. The first step, what I want to do for each one of the boards is I want to round over the top and the bottom, just so when you reach into the drawer there's not a sharp edge, and when you're sliding the drawer in and out there's no sharp edges, so it's going to help slide them a little bit better. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sand them down, and I'm going to do a clear coating on them. So I have these all prepped. These are the sides of all 4 of the lounge drawers, and these are the front. With my eye and ear protection in place, now I'm going to start up the router. Now with all the sides, fronts, and backs of the drawers, and I'm not doing the faces at this point, I'm just doing the drawer boxes, which by the way, you could order drawer boxes online custom to your specification, but with nothing fancy, each drawer box was going to cost about $65. When you think about it, I got 4 big ones and 3 small ones. That's quite a bit of money for just plywood, and then they go up from there. There's lots of upgrades, but you can see it's rounded off top and bottom. Now what I have to do is I have to separate the front and sides from the back, because the back of the drawer is not going to get this dado cut. This dado cut allows us to slide in the bottom of the drawer, which is going to be a Luan board. And this is 1/2-inch plywood, and you can see the dado goes in what looks to be a halfway. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my micrometer and measure the plywood. Alright, we'll get that measured. And it's 0.51. The dado is right around half of that, so it's got a 1/4-inch dado inside of it. My new cabinet sides are 3/4 inch, but I'm still going to put a 1/4-inch dado in using a 1/4-inch straight bit. So I already have it out, and I have it set in my router, and I have it sitting proud of the deck here to make sure it was a 1/4 inch. Then what I have to do is I had to set the fence up. Here's the router bit. I'm going to run the material through this way. I had to set it up so I have a 1/2-inch reveal at the bottom. So what I did was I used a piece of scrap just to run it through initially after I made all my measurements, to make sure that I was correct and that I got a 1/2 inch at the bottom, just over a 1/2 inch there. Now this is a piece of scrap and I ran it through quickly. You can see I'm just over a 1/2 inch there, so I'm pretty close. So I'm going to make some new measurements, move this fence over just a little bit, so I have exactly a 1/2 inch at the bottom of the drawer, which will replicate exactly what Airstream had on theirs, just with thicker material. Now that I have the dado cut in the bottom of the inside of each one of the drawer faces and the sides, what I did was separate the front of the face of the drawer, so that would be the side, the finished side that would face outside that the drawer front gets attached to. I separated those, so I got a batch here and I got a batch here, anything with the tape on the top. Now what I have to do is take each one of the drawer sides and I have to route a dado in to replicate on this side. You could see the little notch where the front slides into. This is 1/2 inch ply and this is 3/4 inch ply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the bit on the router to a 3/8 inch and put the notch into the side. So it's going to look like this when it's done. So if you want to compare. And then when the drawer front will have a corresponding rabbet in it that will slide into this groove, and it will make a nice tight front drawer box. Now again, there's different style drawer techniques. Dovetail would be one of the stronger, but I'm trying to replicate exactly what Airstream did, just using a little bit better material. So I changed the drill bit here, the router bit, to a 3/8 inch straight router bit, and I set the fence over so there's 3/8 of an inch between the fence and the router bit, which gives us this amount of material left, and then the distance between here and here is 3/4 inch, which is the thickness of our plywood here. So now I'm going to run all the sides that don't have the tape on them, just so I don't get them mixed up, through the router, and then we'll lay them out. Now that I finished cutting the dados into all the sides of the drawers of the cabinet, now I had to remember there's a left and right, so I wanted to make sure that the dado to slide the glue on board was at the bottom of the drawer. This would be the bottom of the drawer, but I also had to make sure I was mindful that there's a left and right, so I had to flip the wood around to get the dado on this side of this one, otherwise I'd have it on the wrong side. Now what I have to do is cut this rabbet into the front of the drawer that's going to lock into this groove. So this is the dado, an example piece of wood that I cut into all the sides of the drawers. Now I have the face of the drawers that are going to slide into that groove here, interlock. So if you were to measure from here to the inside, that's 3/4 inches, and I got a 3/8 groove in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep the router bit at the same depth, but I'm going to move the fence over so the fence is flush with the bit, and I'll run the material through, and that will give me this groove here. And if you look, this will line up and interlock in really tight. And it's flush in the front, and it's a really tight joint. So this is how I have the router set up. The bit is a 3/8 inch bit set from 3/8 from the top deck here to the top of the bit, and I have the fence exactly even with the bit. So when I run the material through, it's going to take out what is in this notch here. So now I have to do that to all the front face frames. now that I finished routing the front rabbet, I could assemble. So this is the front of the drawer, this is the side, this is another side, and this is the back. The only thing I would have done differently is I wasn't thinking ahead. I would have left the bottom part square because it's just going to rest up against the Luan board on the bottom. So what I did was I took some careful measurements and I got the bottom here that's going to slide into the bottom dado all the way up. Okay, just like that. And then the back is gonna assemble right here. So what I'm gonna do is add a pocket hole screw on either side to fasten this together. Add some glue and some nails, and this drawer will be complete. So now I'm going to use my KREG jig on the back part of the drawer, not the inside of the drawer. And I'm using this as the back because it's got some chips here and it's the part you're not going to see. When you open the drawer, this is the part you're going to see. I'm going to drill on this side, so I'm going to add some pocket holes to the back. And I have this all set for 3/4 inch material, and I have the drill bit that comes with the kit. Now that adds a spot where I could put a screw into the side frame. I'm going to do the same thing, flip the material over. The holes are on this side here. Okay, now I can bring the box over again. And this is how it's going to assemble, just like that. Now what I'm going to do is add some glue. I'm going to add a tiny little bit to the groove here, a rabbet in the front. Do that like that. I put some craft paper down just to protect the floor. And I don't want to put too much because I don't want it to ooze out, because if you want to stain, the stain won't adhere to the spots that have the glue on it. This I'm going to smear in. Now it's time for assembly. So what I'm going to do is put the front, just like this, together. Put the bottom in. Make sure it's all the way in. Put this side on. Okay, that's our drawer box, right? So now what you want to make sure is that it's flush at the bottom, so when you slide it in and out, it doesn't get caught up on anything. So to prevent that from moving, what I'm going to do is add a clamp to the bottom, just like this. I'm just going to squeeze that together until I can get that completely flush, top and bottom here, and squeeze that. And then I can line up the top so I could add the pocket hole screws. Now there's different types of screws. Since this is oak, I'm going to use a fine thread. I'm going to use the ones that are appropriate for 3/4 inch material. And I'm going to change the bit and put their square bit onto my drill. And then what I'm going to do is line this up, put this together inside here, and I'm going to utilize another clamp to keep this all together. Okay, just like that. And I don't want this to move or slip down in any fashion. So that's all square. I'm going to put the screw in. Tighten that one. I'm going to flip to this one. Okay. Flip the project around. Do this side. Just got to keep that square there. Now I could take the clamp off the back. Now I have the front. What I'm going to do is make sure that this is all still square. And then I'm going to add a nail. With a nail gun, I got 1-inch nails here. Right to the front there. I'm going to do the same on the other side. You want to make sure you go straight in, you don't want it to come out sideways. And now I can undo this clamp. And I can put the rest of the nails in. And then the last thing I'm going to do is nail this bottom in place. And that's it. We got a completed drawer box for the 1961 Airstream Bambi project. Well, this is Patrick with New Jersey's Outdoor Adventures YouTube channel. Hope you enjoyed this video. Please like this video, comment, share, subscribe. I'd love it. And I'll see you soon.